The Middle East has long been a region marked by deep historical, religious, and geopolitical tensions, but in the 21st century, three particularly devastating and complex conflicts have drawn global attention and involvement: the wars in Syria, Yemen, and the ongoing Israel-Palestine conflict. Each of these conflicts has unique origins, yet they share common themes of foreign intervention, civilian suffering, and failed peace efforts. The Syrian conflict, which began in 2011, erupted out of the Arab Spring protests, where demonstrators called for democratic reforms and the resignation of President Bashar al-Assad. The government responded with brutal force, igniting a civil war that quickly escalated and drew in multiple factions and foreign powers. Assad's forces fought rebel groups that included moderate opposition, as well as extremist Islamist factions like Jabhat al-Nusra and ISIS. Russia and Iran intervened to support Assad's regime, while the United States, Turkey, and Gulf states backed various opposition groups. Over time, ISIS emerged as a powerful force, seizing large territories in Syria and neighboring Iraq, prompting a U.S.-led international coalition to intervene militarily. The war resulted in catastrophic humanitarian consequences. Over 500,000 people were killed, and more than 13 million Syrians were displaced internally or as refugees abroad. Entire cities like Aleppo and Homs were reduced to rubble, and the Assad regime was accused of using chemical weapons against civilians multiple times. Despite international condemnation, Assad regained control of most of Syria with the help of Russian air power and Iranian militias, though the conflict is far from over as insurgent pockets remain, especially in the northwest, where Turkish forces and rebel groups continue to resist. In parallel, Yemen has endured a brutal civil war since 2014 that has evolved into a complex proxy war with deep sectarian undertones. The conflict began when Houthi rebels, a Shiite group from northern Yemen with ties to Iran, seized the capital, Sana'a, and ousted the internationally recognized government of President Abdurrabbu Mansur Hadi. In response, a Saudi-led coalition, including the United Arab Emirates and supported by the US and UK, launched a military campaign to restore Hadi's government. This intervention, characterized by airstrikes, naval blockades, and ground operations, has caused immense civilian suffering and infrastructural devastation. Yemen's already fragile economy collapsed, leading to widespread famine, malnutrition, and disease outbreaks, including one of the worst cholera epidemics in modern history. The United Nations has described Yemen as the world's worst humanitarian crisis, with over 23 million people, nearly 80% of the population, in need of aid. Hospitals, schools, and markets have been repeatedly targeted or caught in the crossfire, raising allegations of war crimes from all parties involved. Although several ceasefires have been attempted and briefly held, such as the 2022 UN-brokered truce, none have led to lasting peace. The conflict continues to reflect the larger Saudi-Iran rivalry, with Yemen's people trapped in the middle, enduring violence, poverty, and displacement on a massive scale. Meanwhile, the Israel-Palestine conflict remains one of the most entrenched and emotionally charged disputes in the world. Its roots trace back to the early 20th century, with tensions escalating following the creation of the State of Israel in 1948, which led to the displacement of hundreds of thousands of Palestinians, a historical trauma referred to by Palestinians as the Nakba, or catastrophe. The conflict has seen several full-scale wars and countless flare-ups, particularly between Israel and Palestinian groups in Gaza, most notably Hamas, which has governed the Gaza Strip since 2007. The division between the Palestinian territories, Hamas in Gaza, and the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank has weakened the Palestinian political front and complicated peace efforts. Israel maintains a blockade on Gaza, citing security concerns due to Hamas rocket attacks. But this has led to dire humanitarian conditions for Gaza's population, with limited access to electricity, clean water, medical care, and freedom of movement. The Israeli government's ongoing construction of settlements in the occupied West Bank, deemed illegal under international law by most of the global community, continues to erode the possibility of a two-state solution, which has been the cornerstone of diplomatic efforts for decades. Periodic escalations such as the 2014 Gaza War, the 2021 conflict sparked by tensions in East Jerusalem, and the devastating events of 2023 when Hamas launched an unprecedented attack on Israeli territory have led to thousands of deaths with civilians on both sides bearing the brunt. These conflicts are fueled by deep historical grievances, religious significance of contested areas like Jerusalem, and a cycle of violence and retaliation that shows no signs of abating. Across these three conflicts, Syria, Yemen, and Israel-Palestine, a few common threads emerge. First and foremost is the immense suffering of civilians, who are often the primary victims in modern warfare. In all three cases, children have been killed, maimed, or orphaned, and entire generations have been denied education, safety, and a stable future. The destruction of healthcare systems and infrastructure has led to preventable deaths and long-term trauma. Second, foreign intervention has played a decisive yet often destabilizing role. In Syria, outside powers turned a national uprising into an international battlefield. In Yemen, regional rivalries have prolonged a civil war far beyond its initial scope. And in Israel-Palestine, external political support and military aid have entrenched divisions and undermined neutral mediation. Third, each conflict demonstrates the failure of the international community to enforce consistent standards or broker lasting peace. In Syria, the use of chemical weapons and sieges of civilian areas went largely unpunished. In Yemen, weapons sales to warring parties continued despite clear evidence of war crimes. In the case of Israel and Palestine, the peace process has been repeatedly stalled or derailed by violence, unilateral actions, and lack of trust, with major powers often taking sides instead of acting as impartial mediators. The role of the United Nations and other international bodies has been largely reactive, constrained by geopolitics and the veto power of Security Council members. Furthermore, these conflicts have global consequences beyond the borders of the Middle East. The Syrian war contributed to the largest refugee crisis since World War II, triggering political upheaval in Europe and fueling the rise of far-right parties that capitalized on anti-immigrant sentiment. The chaos in Syria and Iraq also allowed ISIS to rise and export terror attacks worldwide. Yemen's war has disrupted global shipping routes through the Red Sea and added volatility to oil markets. The Israel-Palestine conflict continues to polarize international opinion, shaping global politics and inflaming tensions in diaspora communities. Additionally, these wars have revealed the growing importance and dangers of non-state actors in modern conflict, from Hezbollah and Houthi rebels to ISIS and Hamas, many of whom are well-armed, organized, and capable of challenging state powers. Social media and modern communication tools have also played a significant role, spreading both awareness and disinformation, influencing international perceptions, and shaping diplomatic responses. In conclusion, the conflicts in Syria, Yemen, and Israel-Palestine represent not only the tragic consequences of political failure, sectarianism, and foreign intervention, but also the immense resilience of populations who continue to endure and resist amid immense hardship. While each conflict has its own history, actors, and trajectory, together they illustrate the broader challenges of achieving peace in the Middle East, a region where the scars of colonialism, dictatorship, religious division, and geopolitical competition continue to shape lives and destinies. Lasting peace will require more than ceasefires. It will demand justice, accountability, inclusive political solutions, and a sustained commitment by the international community to prioritize human rights and diplomacy over weapons and alliances.